Now from the hard court to the paddle court, our guests tonight want to prove that playing paddle is serious business. They recently competed in the 2024 Melbourne Open where they emerged victorious in the women's Consolation doubles. And joining us for an all-out conversation live in the studio are Alenna Magpantay and Maia Balce. Good evening, ladies, and thank you for coming back to CNN, Alenna, and welcome to the studio, Maia.
Thank you so much for having us. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And now joining us is Maia.
Yes, congratulations, first of all. Amazing victory, representing the Philippines in this sport that's, fast rising in terms of popularity. Alenna, I'll start with you. Talk about this recent tournament. How was it, the experience of going up against international and tough opponents?
It's quite an amazing experience because this is our first international tournament together, which is an international tournament with the Padel Federation.
Okay.
And at the same time, we're only one of the two teams from Asia.
Oh,
the
wow.
other team is Japan.
Wow.
And all of the other players are from Australia, UK, Argentina, and Spain. So we were really in it for a great match.
So just the only Southeast Asian nation there, and the second Asian country also with Japan. Maia, I know the game went into a tiebreaker, and heading into that third set, how did you two handle the pressure of, just staying locked in and getting that victory in that winner-take-all set?
So it was definitely nerve-wracking, but me and Alenna have been playing for about 2 years now, and we have good chemistry on court. Mm-hmm. And so I know how she moves on court. She knows how I move on court. So during the tiebreaker, we got to pull it through.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Maia here is a former Philippine team, national tennis team member. What was more nerve-wracking, paddle or tennis?
At that moment, it was definitely paddle.
Paddle, okay. I'm sure it's also a very competitive sport. Now, speaking of tough competition, you guys faced opponents from Australia and UK, but you still emerged victorious. Alenna, what was your biggest takeaway from that competition?
Well, my biggest takeaway is that Filipinos really have the talent to showcase in the international scene for paddle and among other sports. Mm-hmm. And it's an emerging sport in the Asia Pacific in which we are actually joining our next professional tour this February in Manila Open for the Asia Pacific Padel Tour. Mm-hmm. So we are representing Filipino Padel Association once again.
Wow, it just keeps on getting better for Philippine Padel. You guys just started 2 years ago, and here you are already becoming successful, representing the Philippines. Maia, I want to ask you, what will it take for Filipino players to be successful? Like what Alenna said, Filipinos have potential in this sport, to get wins internationally. But how can you sustain the momentum that you guys started?
I think definitely a lot of hard work and remembering why you started it. And yeah.
A lot of hard work and training for sure. I want to ask, what's the national team like now? How many members do you have? And how competitive is our national team?
So now we are developing 8 players, and we are actually onboarding more players in the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. Because we are forming the Philippine national team in order to be qualified for the Asian qualifiers, in which will be turned into the World Championships later this year.
Wow, so you guys are just working double time
yes.
to, of course, put Philippines in the map of when it comes to paddle. We know it's popular in Spain especially, right, in Europe. But why not? Let's make the Philippines a powerhouse in this sport. Alenna, the last time you were here was November, right? You guessed it with Sir Rico Hizon in the final word. And you were talking about how popular this sport is getting in the Philippines. From that time to now, how fast is paddle growing? And what makes paddle fun for Filipinos, for those who don't know much about this sport yet?
So over a year of opening the club officially, yeah. So we've had over 10,000 unique players in the club in just a year. So I can see that the sport is growing and the people are loving it, expats and also the locals, which was quite surprising. We knew that the expats would take into it because it's already in the European countries and wherever, like all the countries that they were based off before. But with Filipinos, we were quite surprised with the uptake because they are loving it even without a sports background or even a racket sports background like myself. I didn't have any racket sports background. And people have quite gotten into it. And what makes it so fun is because you get to learn paddle quite fast.
Okay.
And then you progress quickly. The trajectory of progression is really high. So people get addicted, they get into training, they get into tournaments, and they get into socials.
Maia, you particularly, you come from a racket sport background, tennis. What's your advice for people wanting to get into this sport, for those with a racket sport background and for those who have no background?
I think my advice would be to definitely try it, because coming from a tennis background, I would say that it was an easier transition. So I would say the only difference would be a smaller court and then the walls. It definitely takes some time to get used to, but if you try it, I'm sure that you'll have fun.
Okay, lastly, ladies, what's next for you? And how can we make the sport even grow further in the Philippines? Alenna.
So for Philippine Padel Association, to all the players that are interested in trying out for the Philippine team, we have our doors open because we are now onboarding new players. And for us, we're continuing training our players to be ready for the international stage. And for our upcoming Asia Pacific Paddle Tour, we hope to raise again the Philippine flag.
Amazing. Maia, any upcoming tournaments for you?
Upcoming tournaments, we have one tomorrow actually, in Arcovia.
Okay.
It's a mixed tournament, and yeah, hopefully you guys can watch.
All right, very exciting times for our Philippine national paddle team. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me tonight. Once again, we just had Alenna and Maia Balce, our Philippine women's paddle team players.